Hey, thanks so much for joining us today for the Drawing for Youth program from the Ann Arbor District Library. This class is a partnership between the Ann Arbor District Library and the Ann Arbor Art Center, both located downtown Ann Arbor. Thanks for joining all of these different videos. I hope you've been enjoying them. Today we are going to be drawing something that I personally think is kind of challenging, so be patient with yourself as we do this together. But the topic today is called foreshortening. And what foreshortening is this concept in drawing the figure or drawing any kind of object. And the idea is basically that something that is closest to the viewer is going to be larger. So for example, here we see in this image of this boy that the hand itself is much larger than the rest of the figure, or at least larger than the head itself, which maybe would make sense that the hand is as big as the head, but in this case it's actually just even the fingers. And if you hold your finger up to your face, you're going to see that your finger is probably not as large as your whole entire face, but it's because that hand is closer to the other person. So if you were to take a picture, for example, of someone nearby, so here maybe you found somebody sitting like this, and you take a picture of their feet, you're going to see that their feet look as big, if not bigger, than the whole rest of their body. And it's not that they have these ginormous feet, right? It's just the angle and the viewpoint in which we're seeing the figure or seeing any other object. It could be a flower. So today we're going to be doing a project that shows this idea and concept of foreshortening. But what we're going to do is we're going to make it look like there is a person that is falling, or some kind of version. So mine is actually, instead of falling, it's a person, let's say, instead of falling into the water, they are diving intentionally into the water. This person could be falling into a big hole, they could be falling from outer space, whatever you want to do. Be really creative and imaginative here as you go about this. Now, this is really tricky, so I would recommend, if you have a reference photo of somebody, if you can take a picture or two, I think that would make this really fun, where you have someone lay on the ground and pose for you so that you can see the way that everything should look. This will make it a lot more interesting. But what I want you to do is really just compare each body part to another body part. So the part that's going to be closest, in my case here, the hands and the head are closest to the bottom of the page, which in our case means closest to the viewer. If I were seeing this in real life, that's going to be larger than whatever is closer to the top of my page in this case, such as the feet and the legs. So I'm seeing my hands, for example, here are a lot bigger, the head is a lot bigger, and of course I don't even see part of the torso. I only see a little bit of the stomach. I see part of the chest, and then I just immediately start seeing pretty much the back of the legs. I see very little, and obviously also we know that the legs come from the hips, but in this case I'm actually seeing them because of the angle. It actually almost looks like the legs are coming from the head, which is kind of tricky too. So again, you know, it'll take a minute to sketch it out, so really work on your sketch of trying to make whatever parts are closest to the viewer, closest to the camera, or whatever you're looking at. Go back and look back at those reference photos at the very beginning of this video for help, but that should help you see that whatever part is closest to the camera or closest to you as the viewer looking at the person, those are the parts that you're going to make largest. And then the parts that are furthest away are going to be smaller. And you can literally squint your eyes to really see and compare. And you can hold up your fingers and make a little, as if you're going to pinch it. And you can look at it and you can kind of measure how big is it when you put your bottom of your thumb to the bottom of the object or person's head, for example, and then your index finger to the top of the object. And then you can look and you can say, okay, that's that big. And then you can compare it to another part. And so you can just keep comparing the sizes. So that's really going to be the best way to do this. And then you can, of course, color it however you want. So you can use markers or colored pencils. Whatever you have on hand will be great. So you can see the way I'm kind of adding different things here. Got some bubbles going on, some highlights, some little ripples, and I kind of neglected a little bit of shading, so I'm just adding that in there too. And then the other thing that I didn't pay that much attention to were those back feet, and that's because they are more tricky than the rest. And so I had a friend pose for me for this so that I could be able to see it a little bit more clearly. That foot looks kind of strange, so I'm going to make it actually look more like the other one here to make them match, because some parts are going to be trickier than others. And so be patient with yourself as you discover how this looks. So again, you can see that these feet look teeny tiny. They're almost as big as each of the eyes that I have, instead of a normal size foot that would probably be as big as the entire head.